and this sensational rookie from the Indiana Fever who continues to be box office. Clark and the Fever currently lead the WNBA in average game attendance and per game TV viewership.
Let's get straight to the point. The way things are unfolding for these two stars is shocking. 1 minute they're both on top of the world, and the next, well, let's just say things are going in directions no one could have predicted.
This is a phenomenon. Caitlin Clark is a phenomenon. And if I said to any of these people who think Caitlin Clark is not the Rookie of the Year, I'd say, who would you want to start your franchise with? Now, I'm not going to put A'ja Wilson in there. I'm just saying between these two. Angel Reese is a wonderful player, but she does not compare to what and who Caitlin Clark is when she's on the basketball floor.
But why? What could possibly lead to such drastically different outcomes for two of the brightest talents in women's basketball? Stick around because you're about to find out.
Caitlin Clark now has the rookie record, the history of the WNBA, as she's now going to try to set the all-time record, but 12 games to go.
Let's talk about Caitlin Clark. This girl isn't just playing basketball, she's rewriting the rulebook. Have you seen her recent games? She's not just winning, she's obliterating the competition. Take her performance against the Seattle Storm: 29 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds. That alone would be impressive for most players, but Clark, that's just another day at the office. Against the Indiana Fever, she went nuclear: 33 points, 10 assists, and 3 steals. Those aren't just good numbers, they're video game numbers. But unreal.
And look, Angel Reese, there's nothing that she does where you go, did you see her? Other than she plays really, really hard, and I liken her game to Moses Malone.
But here's the kicker, it's not just about the stats, it's how she's getting them. Caitlin Clark has this uncanny ability to read the game like she's seeing moves unfold before they happen. She's always a step ahead, like she's cracked some secret basketball code.
There's no one like Caitlin Clark in the history of the WNBA.
You see her on the court, and it's like watching a chess grandmaster playing against amateurs. Everyone else is playing checkers, while Clark's already mapped out her next 5 moves.
But despite the attendance and viewership records, there seems to be some haterade in the league in regards to Clark, starting with WNBA legend Cheryl Swoops herself. She recently spoke on her podcast, Queens of the Court, and didn't mention the rookie when speaking of Indiana's rise in the standings.
But let's talk about the reaction. While Clark's breaking records, some people even in her own league can't seem to give her the credit she's earned. Stephen A. Smith called it out, and you know he doesn't hold back. He's baffled at the hate Clark's been getting from some WNBA players. Why? Because the league loves her. The WNBA is embracing Clark with open arms, and that's not sitting well with everyone. Clark's style of play? It's like it was made for this league. She's fast, smart, and has that killer instinct. When she's on the court, you can't take your eyes off her. People are calling her a phenomenon, and that's exactly what she is.
Cheryl Swoops. No, Caitlin Clark. Respectfully, Cheryl Swoops, you have any idea how that makes you look? You have any idea how that serves to stain any kind of critique of Caitlin Clark, because that gives fodder to those who believe she's being hated on and ostracized to some degree?
But let's be real, some of this hate, it's coming from players who feel sidelined by Clark's meteoric rise. Players who never got this kind of attention. It's jealousy, plain and simple. Clark's breaking viewership records. People who never watched a women's basketball game in their life are suddenly glued to their screens. And it's not just casual fans. Hardcore basketball heads are taking notice. Caitlin Clark is making everyone realize that women's basketball isn't just good, it's great.
Do you realize that, Cheryl Swoops, you're insane to do that? Let me tell you why you're insane to do that. Because Cheryl Swoops, you're one of the greatest players ever in the history of basketball, that's why. See, you won a championship in college at Texas Tech. You won 3 Olympic gold medals. You won 4 WNBA championships.
And when was the last time you saw someone have this kind of impact on a sport? Clark isn't just playing the game, she's elevating it. She's bringing in new fans, inspiring young players, and setting a new standard for what excellence looks like in women's basketball.
Y'all keep on talking she the great white hype, Ocho. They keep talking about she the great. Ain't no hype. Y'all said the same thing about Larry Bird. Right. I remember. I'm old enough to remember. They said the same thing about Larry Bird. And I saw the All-Star game. She is elite. She is the pinnacle at passing the basketball. Ocho, take off again.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Clark's not just changing the game on the court. She's changing it off the court too. Suddenly, women's basketball is everywhere in the news, on social media, in conversations. And at the center of it all, Caitlin Clark.
So the Fever, in their game against the Minnesota Lynx, was $1.219 million on Ion. On Ion! Follow game didn't even get half the rate.
You have to wonder, how does she handle all this pressure? Because make no mistake, the spotlight is blinding. Every game, every play, every decision she makes is under a microscope. But Clark, she seems to thrive in it. The bigger the stage, the better she plays. And that's what makes her special. It's not just her skills, although those are off the charts. It's her mentality. The pressure that would break most people only makes her stronger.
On this Rookie of the Year race between Clark and Reese?
Well, Jason, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous that we're even having a discussion, to be honest with you. I think it's unequivocally, it's Caitlin Clark should be, leading this conversation by a landslide at this point in time.
Now, let's flip the script. Let's talk about Angel Reese. Remember when she was on top of the world? When it seemed like nothing could stop her? Well, things have taken a wild turn, and you won't believe what just happened. And in her game against the New York Liberty, Reese steps onto the court, ready to dominate. But instead of lighting up the scoreboard, she gets ejected. Yeah, you heard that right, ejected. It's like something straight out of a bad dream. But this isn't just a one-off bad day, this is part of a disturbing trend.
Caitlin Clark should be, leading this conversation by a landslide at this point in time. I mean, when you look at what Caitlin Clark has meant to her team, Reese is the best player on her team, and yet, look, they have not the same record, they have the same number of wins. The Fever have a couple more losses now.
Reese has been struggling, and I mean really struggling. In her last 5 games, she's shooting just 29%. That's not a typo, 29%. For a player of her caliber, that's like a chef burning toast. And to dare compare her to Caitlin Clark right now? Absurd. The numbers don't lie. Reese is in a slump, and it's not just about the stats. Her mechanics are off. Reese is shooting from her shoulder instead of eye level. It's like trying to throw darts blindfolded. You might hit the board sometimes, but good luck hitting the bullseye consistently.
And so, do you think Angel Reese has no case, or is she closing the gap in any way, or should Caitlin Clark just be a unanimous choice as Rookie of the Year?
I would say yes, unanimous case as Rookie of the Year. I think that Reese right now, as we stand here today about the midpoint, has absolutely no case again.
And it's not just her shooting that's falling apart. Reese is facing rejection left and right. Remember Coach Cheryl Reeve? The one with a nose for talent. She took one look at Reese and said, no thanks. Instead, she drafted Elisa Peely, who's now warming the bench with a whopping 6.4 minutes per game. Ouch. But it gets worse. Reese tried to recruit Gabby Williams, the French Olympic star, to join her in Chicago. You know what Williams said? Thanks, but no thanks is like inviting someone to your birthday party and they'd rather stay home and watch paint dry.
In the mix right now, they're fighting. I think they're probably going to be better than what their record indicates by the end of the year. And Jason, we haven't even got into the mix here of this conversation of the importance that Caitlin Clark carries with her, like what she means to the overall product of the WNBA and just women's basketball in general. We haven't even broached or touched on that subject yet. I think Clark it should be the runaway Rookie of the Year right now.
And so, do you think Angel Reese has no case, or is she closing the gap in any way, or should Caitlin Clark just be a unanimous choice as Rookie of the Year?
I would say yes, unanimous case as Rookie of the Year. I think that Reese right now, as we stand here today about the midpoint.
So, is this the end for Angel Reese? Not so fast. Just when you think she's down for the count, Reese flips the script again. In a recent game against the Phoenix Mercury, Reese switched up her strategy. Instead of relying on layups, she focused on mid-range shots and it worked. She dropped 19 to 20 points like it was nothing. Reese isn't just showing her skills, she's showing her ability to adapt. But here's the real question, is this enough? Can Reese turn things around and live up to the hype? Or is this just a temporary fix for a much bigger problem?
Their statistical output is relatively similar. Clark is averaging 16 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds, something along those lines. And Reese is averaging like 14 points per game, 12 rebounds, and 2 assists. And like I said before, Clark is, without question, to me, the best player on that team. Reese is not that on her own team.
Let's zoom out for a second and look at the bigger picture. What's happening with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese isn't just about 2 players. It's about the entire landscape of women's basketball. And that landscape is shifting fast. Did you know that over 81% of WNBA fans are influenced by sponsorships? That's massive. It means that as the league grows, so do the opportunities for players like Clark and Reese. We're talking bigger contracts, more endorsements, and a chance to become household names. But here's where it gets really interesting. There's a new league on the horizon, the Unrivaled League. They're making big promises and turning heads. Some people think Clark should stay with the WNBA because it's established, it has history, fan base, and infrastructure. And that's a valid point. Think about it, Clark is already making waves in the WNBA. She's breaking records, drawing in fans, and changing the game. Why leave all that behind for something new and untested?
9 times is Caitlin Clark. I mean, she is just so utterly and unbelievably important to the WNBA and its product. You would need to show me a player with a substantial case to be above her if we're going to give someone other than her the WNBA Rookie of the Year, and that just doesn't exist at this point in time.
And it's not just about the money or the fame, it's about legacy. The WNBA has been home to some of the greatest players in women's basketball history, legends like Lisa Leslie, Diana Taurasi, and Sue Bird. Clark has a chance to add her name to that list. She's not just playing for today, she's playing for a future where she's remembered alongside the best to ever do it.
From 2009 to this season, to the beginning of this season, the WNBA did not have a single game get 1 million viewers. Not once in 15 years. Now this season, about halfway through, they have 12 games over 1 million. And the top 10 of the top 10 most viewed WNBA games this season, we've got Clark involved in 9 of them, Jason.
Now, let's talk about what this all means for women's basketball as a whole. Clark and Reese aren't just players, they're symbols. They represent both the potential and the challenges facing the sport. On one hand, you've got Caitlin Clark showing the world what's possible when talent meets opportunity. She's proving that women's basketball can be just as thrilling, just as skilled, and just as marketable as the men's game. She's raising the bar for everyone. On the other hand, you've got Angel Reese, a reminder that success isn't guaranteed, even for the most talented players. Her struggles are showing us the importance of resilience. Reese is facing setbacks head-on, and she's finding ways to adapt. Together, these 2 stars are telling a story about women's basketball that goes beyond wins and losses. It's a story of growth, challenges, and the future of the sport. And let's not forget about the fans. The WNBA has the highest percentage of social media users among its fan base compared to other major sports. That means these players have a direct line to their audience. They're not just athletes, they're influencers. They have the power to shape opinions, inspire young players, and grow the sport in ways we've never seen before. So what does all this mean for the future of women's basketball? It's complicated. On one hand, we're seeing unprecedented growth and interest in the sport. More people are watching, more sponsors are investing, and more young girls are dreaming of becoming the next Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese. But on the other hand, we're also seeing new challenges. The pressure on these young players is immense. They're expected to perform, be role models, be marketable, and never slip up. The expectations are sky high. And then there's the question of what comes next. Will the WNBA continue to grow and evolve? Will new leagues like Unrivaled change the game? And most importantly, how will players like Clark and Reese shape the future of the sport? The stakes are higher than ever, and the spotlight is brighter than it's ever been. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? It's simple in basketball, just like in life. It's not about whether you're on top or at the bottom, it's about how you handle both. Caitlin Clark is soaring high, breaking records left and right. Angel Reese is facing setbacks but showing that she's got the guts to keep fighting. Both of them are teaching us something huge. Women's basketball is changing, and the future is unfolding right before our eyes. Comment your thoughts below, and don't forget to click on the next video to see what's new.